Mm, mm. Greetings, Starfinders. I'm your host, Dustin Knight, and welcome back to another edition of Infinite Reviews. Tonight, we are interviewing the talented friend of the show, the everyman gamer Alexander Augunas.
Hi, everybody. This is fun. I feel like I'm the first person on your show that's not doing a Pathfinder Infinite product.
I think you are the first person on my show who is doing both Starfinder and a not infinite product.
I did it.
You did it.
Oh, I'm seeing on your chat that I'm quiet.
Then I will adjust the sound.
All right.
There we go.
Yeah. How does this sound, Cripwalker76? Can you hear me now? Let's see if they can hear me. Hopefully, the answer is yes, because yep, they say much better. Cool. Because
Awesome.
if I'm gonna drop all of the spoilers and the previews, like then I got to do it with a robust voice. But don't worry, when I start screaming and getting really excited, I'm sure I'll blow everybody's ears out. It'll be great.
Exactly. Because tonight we are reviewing Starfinder Species Reforged.
Yeah, I'm so excited. This book has been like I want to say almost it'll be like a year and a half of work. I mean, like we originally started the Starlog Deluxe Species Reforged products in like early to 2020, maybe 2019, and then like I started getting the files together to actually release Starfarer Species Reforged probably around August or September of 2020. It was whatever year we started Teenage Wasteland. Just so that there is complete and total transparency, I hired Dustin to write stuff on this book, and he is one of the original playtesters of Starfarer Species Reforged. So this is an extremely biased review.
It is very,
Please,
very. And I do
please,
need to
yeah.
clarify. And I do need to clarify that all views on this show are my own and have not been reviewed or endorsed by Paizo. My ongoing goal is to showcase and review as many third party Starfinder and Pathfinder products as possible. For the sake of full disclosure, I'm friends with Alexander Augunas and a contributing author to Starfinder Species Reforged. As usual, if you have any requests for products I haven't already given a thorough review, please feel free to contact me on social media or catch me on my Discord at infinite.net.
You got to do it. Come to the Discord and tell him what you want him to do.
Yes.
Or
So,
you could just be me and then get a message like one day, be like, "I'm reviewing your book and you're gonna come on." Like, all right, let's do it.
yes. While this is a biased review, I will admit, like I've been saying in my ads, this book it feels like has changed everything. Like when it comes to uh, Starfinder for me, it is like there's a reason. Once I got this content, my character went from like a handful of feats from different books to like I guess I'm just taking all my feats from Starfinder Species Reforged now.
You know what? It's really funny because when you told me that this book was going to change everything the first time, I was like, "Oh, you're just being nice." And then like I started getting messages after it went live on Wednesday where people were like, "Wow, this makes me want to play Starfinder again. Wow, this completely rekindles my interest in this system." I'm like, "You guys weren't interested in Starfinder? Starfinder's great." Like, and I was like, well, "I'm happy you're saying that, but like Starfinder, you gotta play Starfinder."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Uh,
So yeah.
Yeah. And I do want to tell everybody in chat that if you see a species or heritage or anything else from this book that you want us to go over, I'll go over this page right here. Please go ahead and shout it out. We have some requests already from Discord and Twitter that we're going to go over.
Hmm.
Uh, and we could go ahead and start on that if you'd like.
I don't know how you feel about this, but I think instead of doing like a deep dive on every
Right.
species we have picked, we might just want to do an overview because this book
Yes.
has 61 playable species.
Definitely.
It has more species in a single book than any Paizo product that is currently out, and most of those species have like about half of them are 2-page spreads, and then the other half are 6-page entries. So
Right.
like the amount of content we could literally drown anybody listening to this show in forever. You would just never see them again.
Exactly.
I definitely see that. Uh, Gosh, I'm sorry, Stephen. I always say your username wrong. It's Almanaha. Almanaha. I have no idea to say it, but they want to see the Chimera Born, and I know exactly why. They've played a Chimera Born in the very first iteration of the rule set that I did for that option. So maybe we can add that on. I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd
So
be cool.
where would you like to start? Guide me, and I'll just
Well,
start
the first
splattering.
place we do need to start is the introduction and how this entire system works, so people will kind of understand while we're going over these rules.
Oh,
Um,
that's fair. Now, I mean, if we're talking about the introduction, there are two things that I want to say first. So there's a sidebar. That sidebar says note, a note from the publisher. So that means it's a note from
mhm.
me. I'm the publisher. Um, in addition to a whole bunch of handy annotations, there's also like three very important paragraphs that I feel like you really have to get out of the way to understand this book. So it's definitely a place where if you skip the introduction, you might not know some of the lingo that we use. The first thing is that there is a term that in this book and in Everybody Games products that we use, which is daily preparations. Basically, it is anytime you take an 8-hour rest to regain uses of your limited use abilities. That's what daily preparations is. Recuperate is whenever you spend a resolve point and rest for 10 minutes to regain stamina points. And then we also use the term species instead of race throughout this entire book. I checked and double checked. We do not use the word race once. That is very important to me with this product.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm glad to hear
Yes.
that.
I also found out from Dustin today that there's an error on the second page. It talks about a spread of content that was never intended to be in this book, and I have no idea why it showed up there. It's my fault because I laid this book out. But there's a reference to species graphs, and they don't exist. So if you look for them like Dustin and can't find them, it's because they're not supposed to be in this book
Mm.
at all. But mistakes happen. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
big deal. It's not like content is wrong.
Right, right. All right, so building Reforged PCs. This was like the most exciting thing for me. It felt like a great. At first, I thought it was like a middle point between Pathfinder 2 and Starfinder, but the more I got into it, the more I realized that I think I might even like it more than Pathfinder 2, which is difficult for me to say
Yeah,
because I love Pathfinder 2.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's because Pathfinder 2's ancestry system is great, but Pathfinder's 2 ancestry system has a couple places that make the content. I want to use the word friction, like the content has some friction in it that doesn't feel great. And basically, Starfinder Species Reforged uses a modified version of the ancestry rules that look at all those different pressure points and are like, what if we just got rid of those?
Mm.
What if they're gone?
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of like the design for this book, and if you want to flip to page, I mean, I guess you can show up the cool art that's behind me on page 6, but page 8 is where like the sidebar is. It's rebuilding Reforged PCs. There's an entire spread that basically walks you through the steps of making a player character with this book, because you can't really use the rules for making a player character from the core rulebook in doing this. It's completely different.
Right.
Now, the sidebar is this handy little sidebar that basically tells you how species are balanced in this book. And I think there are a couple that kind of strafe the line a little bit in
Mm-hmm.
terms of following these rules. But for the most part, all of the species follow it. And because every species in this book follows these rules, you can use this to sort of like build your own without me like saying, here's a species builder.
Right.
Like, just use these guidelines, you'll be fine. But ultimately, one of the big things, someone in chat says that piece of art is very cool, and
It
I
is.
totally agree.
It is.
So the big things that are gone compared to other books species rules, there are no ability score modifiers. This book has a alternate ability score building system.
Huh. Yeah.
Your species does not give you an ability adjustment. Basically what it comes down to is that the ability scores are abstractions, but people take what the ability scores represent and use them in ways that might not necessarily be true to the fantasy. This is mostly to intelligence. Saying a species is objectively dumber than another species or has a lower intelligence is kind of gross.
Mm-hmm.
And intelligence as a metric for measuring how smart things are is very biased in the real world. So to me, I would rather just have intelligence be something that you build for your character. And it's honestly, intelligence is the reason why the alternate ability score rules exist
That makes sense.
specifically. Yeah. And also because Starfinder doesn't really have a whole lot of ways to get ability score boosts. So especially at low levels, your character concept can feel pigeonholed if you suddenly have to put an 18, but only 18 worth of points into an ability score, but only get a 16 out of it.
Yeah, yeah.
that doesn't give it. So we just got rid of them. They're gone. The second thing that this book does that that are different from other types of rule systems is that it has, I guess the best way to put it is that it uses a lot of universal shared options. So
Mm-hmm.
in addition to there being universal talent heritages, like you could be an Asmar, you could be a Chimeraborn, like someone mentioned in chat. We're going to talk about Chillborn and Heatborn later because that one was requested. But in addition to universal heritages, there's 10 pages of universal talents. So like when you get right down to it, with the number of options your character has available, like if you're a kitsune and you have 6 pages that have 6 pages worth of kitsune content, and you compare that to a Vanara and they only have 2 pages of content, the difference in content and the difference in number of options you have to choose from is actually quite small, because both of them have 10 pages of universal traits that they can choose from,
Right.
and 40 different universal heritages they can pick from.
Right.
So like the Vanara has like 3 heritages, and Kitsune have like 9 or 10. So like the difference between them is 6, but there's like another 40 you can go for that anybody can pick. So that's one of the other big ideas, that this book has lots of universal content, with the idea being that the more different we are, and by we I mean people, the more different people are, the more similar we actually are. So like a lot of things that just don't feel like they should be limited to one species go in the universal bin. Because I don't know about you, but like the flex universal talent is hilarious, but I didn't want to write that 64 times.
Right, right.
So
And it just fits for a lot of them. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it made more sense. And then the other thing that it does that's different from Pathfinder Second Edition specifically is that there are no level tiers. Like every talent that is listed is generally something you can take at first. Like there's none.
I didn't even notice that. Yeah, you're right.
Every single talent is balanced, so that, like, I think there's like 1 or 2 exceptions, but if a talent requires a prerequisite, I tried to make it so that every talent could be taken at first level. Instead, what will happen is that talents have abilities that you gain, that they grow if you take them multiple times.
Right.
So we have abilities that are higher level, that are more powerful, that are better suited for higher level gameplay, or that require more resources to invest in. But instead of saying you can't take this till 5th level, it's you have to take this talent multiple times. And because of how the game is balanced, you probably won't be able to qualify for this until 5th level, or we might just tell you need to be 5th level to take this multiple times. So like there is a level lock system in place, but the baseline option is available for you right away. So if you want to turn into a fox, you can take that as your first level kitsune talent. You just be, I can turn into a fox. Cool, here I go. Like in general, we want to give you the tools to be able to do fun, cool things with this book.
Right. And all those fun, cool things you could also then take as replacement class features and bonus feats, right?
So basically, the short answer to that is yes. Specifically, there is a feat in the feat section of this book called Additional Talent that just lets you pick a talent instead of a feat. That is exactly how, like, if you want to get to the point where, like, a lot of the Starfinder feats feel too, like, I guess, predictable and samey to you, and you just want one of these fun talents instead, you could just do that. A lot of the talents are designed, all the talents are based or balanced around being a feat's worth of power and level. Pretty much everything in this book is balanced around the power of a feat. And so you could, like, that option is there, and it works really well if you want more. But if you don't want more and you just want to take a feat, you can do that too. And there's also a optional rule for GMs where you could just give players an extra talent for free at 5th level and every 4 levels thereafter. I personally use that rule. I just give my players the options. And let me tell you, I don't know how you feel about it, Dustin, playing in Teenage Wasteland, but personally, I think I've broken the game more by giving you guys higher item level equipment than your level than I have given you talents.
Oh, like, definitely.
Like Solaris, you have an armor that's level 12 and now none of my monsters can hit you?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, like, that's yeah.
You could break the game a lot more by giving high level armor and weapons. But I think it's fine, but if for GMs who don't want to do it, and you don't have to.
Yeah. Well, I would like to go over... I switched to the feats when you were saying that, because I think it would be best to go over some of these universal options first, so that we could spend as long as we want diving into different heritages and species, and more people in chat can shout out what heritage species they want to see. So I like that there's extra feats here. I always want more feats that any class could use in Starfinder. So I'm glad they're
Mhm.
here. Definitely.
Yeah. One thing that I know that people are going to be like, well, I don't know about all people, but I know Owen and I disagree heavily on this. As many people know, Everybody Games partners with Rogue Genius Games, and so I partner very heavily with Owen Casey Stevens. And Owen and I agree on many things, but there's one thing we disagree on, and it's the insight bonus progression in Starfinder for skills. I am very strongly of the opinion that your character doesn't feel good at skills if they're 6 points behind a operative, and having a feat that lets you get to 3 is not satisfying.
Mm,
Uh, Honestly, I think +2 is about the most I'm okay with,
hmm
and even Pathfinder Second Edition lets everybody get to legendary in skills. So this feats chapter has 2 reforged feats. They are feats that have been completely reworked from the ground up, and there is a sidebar that talks about how you can kind of like adjust and use them. So those feats are skill focus and skill synergy, and skill focus has been changed so that starting at based on the number of ranks you put in the skill, the insight bonus goes up like it did in first edition Pathfinder, up to a maximum of +6. It's designed so that the skill focus feat is slower than the operative class feature, Operative's Edge. So if you're an operative, you'll get those bonuses faster, and then you'll still have operative skill specialization, which will
mm,
turn skill focus into basically being able to take 10 whenever you want on your skill.
awesome.
And then skill synergy is changed so that it does not provide an insight bonus. Instead, it provides a flat untyped +1 bonus that doesn't stack with the bonus from your theme. Essentially, if you don't have a theme that gives that a +1 theme bonus to a skill you want, you can use skill synergy to pick up that +1 theme
Mm,
bonus, which on one hand is a smaller bonus than the +2 you could have gotten originally, but it gives you the ability to gain access to a +1 bonus that the game is budgeted for that is otherwise impossible other than a first level choice that you gain.
gotcha. That's very clever. Awesome. And I was really impressed with Greater Combat Maneuver. I'm glad to see that. For
I
people who want to do
know.
dirty trick, disarm, grapple, reposition, sunder, trip, bull rush.
I love those, and I think that improved combat maneuver just being 1 feat in Starfinder makes a lot of sense, and I really like it.
Hmm
But I also think that people miss the crazy greater combat maneuver shenanigans from first edition. And now,
Exactly.
granted, a lot of these are, I would say, they're more in line and balanced than what you would have gotten out of first edition, but in general they're fun, and I really enjoy them. I'm happy people like them. It's actually interesting. Greater combat maneuver, I think, is the only feat in this entire list that is not like a talent doesn't give that feat to you specifically in
Mm,
this book. It's
okay.
just a really cool feat, and I want you to be able to do greater combat
Well,
maneuvers. So,
and there's plenty of other talents that do support combat maneuvers, right?
oh, tons,
Right.
absolutely.
And let's just I just want to point out to people here. Ooh, gotta reload the PDF. That this is a 349 page book.
Yes, that
Yeah,
sounds right.
347 page book. Yeah, there's a lot of content in here. There's more than we can cover in the show. Um,
So much content.
so much content. Just universal talents alone. These are talents anyone could take. There's we can't cover them all, but as you'll be able to see as I skim through these, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of really cool ones. I personally love Culinary Savant because anything that lets you cook and add a mechanical bonus for all the times you said my character cooks a meal for everybody. I I love that. It also lets you regain stamina, which I appreciate a lot because you don't always have a envoy in the party. Um, is there any ones that you especially like that you want to talk about?
Universal talents that I like specifically. That's a hard one. There's a lot of good ones. I'm going to call out 2 of them that I'm a big fan of.
Sure.
And I'm going to give you one that I wrote and then one that a freelancer wrote, because we had a nice big old number of freelancers on this project.
Mm-hmm.
So the one that I want to call out that a freelancer wrote is Flex.
Flex.
So
It's right
Flex
here.
was a Flex was originally written by Kendra Lay Speedling, and it is hilarious. Basically, you attempt an intimidate check against an opponent by flexing at them, and you if you pass, the target is off target for 1 round and flat-footed against your attacks, and then the duration goes up the longer that you have successfully flexed them. And it is funny and it is amazingly cool. It's definitely an intimidate option, but it's one of those things where Kendra originally submitted it as part of the Lashunta, and I was like, all right, so more than just Lashunta can flex at people, I'm making this universal. It's an amazing talent. It's so fun and flavorful. And I did that with pretty much all the freelancers. I don't know how many of them have looked at this book and gone, oh no, where's my favorite talent that was so cool? The answer is if you can't find it and it was really unique, it's probably in Universal Talents right now,
Mm-hmm.
unless it was something that really, like, because when I curated all of these species talents, I went through and I was like, if this talent is going to stick with this species, it needs to, and you'll see this when we start talking about talents and going through them. Pretty much every species talent has a sentence or two at the start of it that explains why it's for that species. And so, like, there are talents that feel similar across species. A lot of species have a skill expertise option, which is basically the same mechanic but with a unique list of curated skills. And like for stuff like that, that's fine. Weapon familiarity is a one that appears in multiple places, but other than that, for a lot of the talents, we worked really hard to try to make sure that, like, if a talent said that it was for humans, it felt like it was something that was unique to humanity, or for Lashunta, or for Formians, or whatever other species you want to look at in this book.
Makes sense.
It definitely made designing content very difficult, because it turns out that you probably have about 2 good pages of unique talents in your brain for any given species, and then after that, like, it's like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? How am I doing this? It's very hard.
Yeah. And
so I think the other one that I wanted to mention that's really fun.
mm-hmm.
I really like Lifelong Learner.
Lifelong Learner.
Yeah, Lifelong Learner. Basically, you can choose a skill that you count as having ranks in it equal to half your level, and attempt checks as if you were trained, and you get +3 if it's on your list of class skills. So basically, it just lets you spontaneously pick a skill that you don't really have a lot of ranks in and just have them. I think it's fun. It's very it's one of those things where, like, it's like a cram session, and it's interesting.
Great. Oh, and one little thing about flex. I've noticed there's quite a few of these talents that have punctuation in the titles, and if you're just skimming through the book and you only have 2 minutes with the book before you got to run off to work or something, just look around for exclamation points and question marks, and you'll find some incredible talents.
True.
Many of my favorite talents have punctuation in their titles. And real quick, I want to go over the appendices real quick, so again, we could just dive into the species and heritages and stay there. And why does that? My computer's just been acting up a little bit, so I might have to reload the PDF a couple times. There we go. All right. So you have new creature companions. Kitsune Star Gems, haha, Kokugami, hyenas, goblin dogs, dire wolves. We can always use more creature companions. We have a huge list of charts that go over the growth and development of every species, from infant, toddler, child, adolescent, young adult, mature adult, old adult, venerable adult, all the different years, and very basic of how they're born, whether they're hatched or born live. It's extremely useful, whether you're making an NPC and you need to figure out how old they are based on their development, or you're making a PC and you're not quite sure how old they should be, because there's a lot of different alien species with a lot of very weird life cycles that I did not expect until I started reading these.
And it's funny because a lot of the ones that are the weirdest are the ones that are like from Paizo. Like a lot of the everybody game specific ones are like, yeah, these kind of grow like humans,
Right?
and then you have other ones that are just like, oh my gosh, like. And like, we put a lot of information on this table, and a lot of it was informed by my understanding of child growth and development. I have my undergraduate degree is in elementary education, so we have to do a lot of like psychoanalytic stuff, and my master's is in behavioral psychology. So, like, got a lot of information and a lot of stuff to put in there, and then it's like, hey, what exactly does this creature come out from? Is it hatched? Is it born live? How does this work? How are we doing this? Has Paizo ever said anything? No. most of the case, the answer is no. There's definitely a lack of explanation for like how a lot of creatures like what they're like when they're young. Every
Right.
now and then you'll get some, and then like the fun ones are like, hey, guess what? Paizo has said that Ijtikris start as like these little fish things that are microscopic and then grow very large, and then they swim out to shallow waters and turn into sessile creatures where they anchor themselves to the floor. Enjoy trying to write the age categories for this. And I'm like, all right, okay, I'm gonna try.
Yes.
Good stuff.
All right, and then you have some NPC creation rules here. Creature genus graft. How to use these talents for if you're a GM and you want to throw talents onto a creature. There's some guidelines here. There's an entire new page of rules for polymorphing, which is one of those rules in tabletop role playing that you tend to need a page for because turns out
Mm-hmm.
changing your form is complicated and has a lot of baggage.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Those rules in particular, they're designed to work off of the Alien Archive 2 rules. So like you still are making forms as described by that spell, but the rules basically tell you like, okay, well, if you want to polymorph into a species, here are the swaps you make. Here are the things you get. Yeah, you can swap a couple of your talents for a couple talents for the form based on the level. It's definitely like kind of wild, I think is a good way to put it. I enjoy it very much. I'm very excited for people to get their hands on that and to just polymorph all the things.
Awesome. And then you have 4 pages, 6 pages, 8 pages of universal creature rules.
Yeah.
Which it's
So
great to have these here so we don't have to have 2 different books with us.
well. So here's the thing. In addition to that, which is very true, I wanted to make sure all the rules were here because this book references them a lot, and every Alien Archive adds a couple more as like new rules are made. So like I wanted to make sure that they were all in this one place for players. But this book also introduces a lot of new universal creature rules, and it edits and changes a lot of universal creature rules. And in particular, there are a couple in baseline that are very much intended for creatures and not players, and
Right,
so the
right.
rules were swapped. So a couple that I want to call out is that there are respiration universal creature rules because this book will tell you whether your character species is air breathing or water breathing or doesn't need to breathe, or if they photosynthesize. Those are all rules in as universal creature rules, and they tend to be pretty obvious. The air one is like you it's like you risk suffocation if there's no air for you to breathe. It's
Right.
like thanks. But like it's the thing where like a water breathing rule has traditionally existed. You can't really present these options in a way that is diverse and holistic if you don't like if you assume everybody knows that you're air breathing.
Right.
Like do these creatures just not breathe because you didn't give them a rule but you gave the water breathing creatures a rule? No, we made air breathing. Change shape is one that got a very large errata from how it was originally printed because the original change shape in Alien Archive 1 was printed before polymorph rules existed. So like the original change shape is technically not a polymorph effect as written.
Okay.
But it is a polymorph effect because the polymorph rules say it's a polymorph effect, but that's never been updated. And then like there's just a bunch of different like fun interactions that like you can do a lot with shape changing that a very small ability isn't necessarily going to show you very well.
Mm-hmm.
So like one of the things is like if you shape change, like you have a chance to just like not have your equipment change with you if you fail a disguise check, and that disguise check is very easy to pass if you are like shape changing when you're just like chilling and you can take 10. It's literally designed so that if you have no charisma and no ranks, you can pass it if you take 10. But if you can't take 10 and you are not good at shape changing because you don't have disguise as a bonus, then if you're like running and you're in a combat and you're trying to change your form, you could just mess up completely. And like I think that it's cool to have an ability like change shape that gives you an incentive for like wanting to invest in a skill that is thematically appropriate for a shape changer.
That
Which
makes
is kind
sense.
of why that's there.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole bunch of like things that have kind of existed but needed tweaks. The multi-typed is a multi-typed universal creature rule is one that appears a lot in this book. It is basically the android ability that says you count as a construct for all effects if specifically if it would be bad for you. And like just taking that like giant block of text and making it a universal creature rule was so helpful in writing this project, because there's a lot of places that are tight for words, and being able to just say multi-typed universal creature rule is so much better.
Yeah, definitely.
um, the final thing that I want to call out to in this section is that senses all have a universal creature rule, and specifically whether they are precise or imprecise. This book completely redoes senses, because one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to make this book feel as genuine and accessible to people who in the blind and deaf communities as possible. To the point where this book has a blind and a deaf consultant who helped me work on it. And one of the things, I sat down with them and we looked at all the rules for blindness and deafness in the game. It was originally prompted when I was working on the Blacka. The one thing I got from my blind consultant is he said, yeah, calling this blind sight is actually kind of offensive. And I was like, all right, we're getting rid of blind sight then. So the book does not use that term. Instead, it tells you that you have precise senses or imprecise senses, because that's essentially how blind sense and blind sight work in original Starfinder.
Yeah.
And then the universal rules are here in the back of the book. So throughout the book, you'll see it. And I guess also like there's like a standard list of senses that really don't need to be explained all that much. But there are also like weird ones that are like, you have electromagnetism sense, where you can, and then it tells you like, this means you can detect this with this kind of thing with this sense.
Right,
it's
right.
Like, okay. The other rule that does that is natural weapons. Starfinder's natural weapons rule literally just say you have an unarmed strike, and like and they actually errated it in Alien Archive 3, where they added the rule where now the ability will tell you if you have a different damage type by putting that damage type next to it. And I was like, no, because that's not how aliens do it anyway. Like they tell you that the attack is. So in this book, if you gain a natural weapon, the book says you have a blank that does blank. And so like it's completely rewritten. The ability was written with players in mind, so like it'll tell you what happens if your natural weapon says that it's an operative weapon. What does that mean compared to like an operative strict attack? Or what if I get what if I get a critical hit effect that requires a item level and it's not a weapon? How does that work? So like a lot of abilities were expanded for corner cases with players specifically.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice too that I like when senses are written out. Also, it helps when someone asks, well, what can we do to what? It helps know when the blind sense works and what makes it work. Like it makes it a lot more interesting, engaging. It makes it a lot more engaging.
Definitely. There are a couple places where it ends up being weird. Like for most species, blind sense vibrations requires you to be in a medium like water or air that is jostled by nearby movement.
Right.
And so I think because of how it's worded, dragons, outer dragons might not actually be able to use their blind sense while flying around in outer space. But like, I'm kind of okay with that personally. You can make the house rule as your GM for your monsters,
right?
But like, it's vibrations and you're in space and there's nothing to vibrate.
Well, as long as you brought up outer dragons, I'm going to use that to transition us to kobolds.
Hey, that's a good one.
Right? Let me just pull that back up. Kobolds. There we have it. All right. So yeah, kobolds were one of the featured species that people wanted to see. And right off the bat, I'm intrigued. I was intrigued as right when you read the heritage ability down here, the species trait. Right when you read the species trait that all kobolds get, it says right off the bat that you get to choose a draconic lineage based on the Dragonkin Dragon Sept. And then there's a huge list of different dragon types you could be that made me really happy. I was glad it wasn't just the chromatic and metallic.
I kind of feel bad for Dragonkin, because a lot of the Dragonkin section's word count is eaten up by Dragon Seps, and like lots of other abilities that lots of other options in the book that are dragon based refer to those. So like Dragonkins walked, so several other species like Cobalts could.
Yeah, but you have so many universal talents that you'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll be absolutely okay. It's not a problem.
Right.
And I think for Dragonkin in particular, the place where like they got hit the hardest is like Dragonkin have fewer heritages or maybe fewer talents. I don't remember. It's one of those two. But like the thing is that every sept, how the septs work is like there's for a lot of them there's one talent, and then that talent corresponds to your SEP, and it tells you what the talent does when you take it. So like, hey, here's 4 different universal creature rules. Pick one, you get it. Oh, and then so kobolds can gain it. They have a limited ability to gain access to Dragonkin talents by default, but like, if you want more as a kobold, then just go take the Dragonborn Universal Heritage, because that one just lets you take all the dragon, and I think that's appropriate.
Right.
Kobolds are a little bit more dragon than others baseline, but man, oh man, they can be more dragon if they want to, and they're dragon enough. Like, you get plenty of options. You get one at first, and every 4 levels thereafter you can pick one.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah. There are a lot of things I really like in this list. I think that their lineages are really funny.
Yeah, I love. I was shocked to see Swole as a lineage for kobolds.
Yeah, Swole Kobold. So it's great.
A Swobold?
Yeah, Swobold. You can be a medium humanoid with the Kobold subtype instead of a small humanoid. You get a couple small bonuses, and you either gain. So one of the things that I like that Kobolds do is that not every single lineage is like this, but like, I tried to put themes and a lot of just weird, interesting takes on things. So like, Kobold is like this. Pretty much every Kobold lineage gives you either one option or the True Dragon Kobold talent. And the True Dragon talent, I think, is what gives you can just take the Dragonborn heritage as a talent. So like, the idea is that, yeah, your lineage might give you a special ability that's unique to you, but all kobolds are dragons. So any kobold can just take that talent. Humans do something similar, where every human lineage has a specific talent you can take, or you could just take the human bonus feat instead.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. And then, yeah, we have Kobold Frenzy, if you want to be even more like a dragon, or if you want to be more like a kobold, you have stuff like Scamper, Scrappy, Protect Me, Crafty. You got ways to set traps. My brain just died on that one. Yes, Crafty, yes.
Traps were really hard because Starfinder doesn't have good snare rules like Pathfinder 2nd Edition does. I just like some of the names you get to do when you do kobolds. Like, one of their talent names is called Skedaddle.
Yes.
Just they're fun.
Yes.
I really enjoy them. This section was actually written by Ivis K. Flanagan.
Okay.
And the names and the core concepts I got for this one were very strong. Ivis came in very late to the book. I had this kobolds were one that got bumped around by a couple people, just because last year was hard for many people, and as a result, the kobolds kind of got the short end of the stick in a lot of ways. But Ivis picked it up and really ran with it.
All right, and yes, I also love batting down the Warren. Like I said, any talent with a punctuation is going to get brought up at some point.
That's funny.
All right, next on our list, our next featured species is the Spothanae.
Oh, I know you wanted to do this one because you're the one who wrote them.
I am.
So the Spothanae, they're like a bunch of literal ordinary insects. They are just regular bugs, but somehow they have a collective consciousness, and that consciousness is the Spothanae. They're very interesting. It's very challenging to write a good set of swarm rules, like a playable swarm. And I think that this book takes the core concept from the original Starfinder book. I think they're from Alien Archive 3 or 4, and really just kind of running home with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting called out for being biased on this one.
I am biased because I wrote it, and I'm really proud of the idea that the lineage you pick depends on what kind of bug you are, whether you're a water bug, a burrowing bug, a climbing bug, or a flying bug. And then I'm glad to see that the different example insects got thrown in there, because I love the idea of, like, you could be a swarm of bees or a swarm of spiders or a swarm of butterflies.
Yes. I think that's part of what the charm of what the species could be, and it's a good example of how Species Reforged can do things that, you know, the half-page stat block in a Starfinder core rulebook really can't. They're just kind of going crazy with a lot of this content. So there's a lot of names here that I really like. There's one that's it's called 1,000 Stings, because, you know, it's death by 1,000 stings.
Yes,
it's funny. There's lots of, like, so when you have a species like the Spathinae that have a very clear fantasy, which is I'm playing a swarm, or you're a kitsune, I'm playing a shapeshifter, I'm playing a character that is hyper, and like it's like a core racial trait you can really just go crazy with.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those species are the ones that, in my opinion, are the most mechanically interesting
Mm-hmm.
because they have so much. Like it's like there's so much you can do with being a swarm.
Mm-hmm.
Like from a writing perspective, it's a lot easier than doing like human or halfling or gnome. It's like, all right, you're a dude, but you're fey and you're short. Cool. Help. I like how Swarm of Evil Butterflies is coming up in chat.
Swarm of evil butterflies. Yes.
I think the greatest ability name that you turned over to me in this one is Unsettling Wriggle. I'm like, all right, cool. It's a wriggle.
Yes. Yes, you have
Good
little
stuff.
bits, little bugs or wriggle around in it, and it makes people consider. Wait, aren't we all just technically swarms if you count our gut bacteria and our other individual cellular compositions?
That's a debate that I don't know enough to have. Now, let's move on to the next species.
Yes, let's move on to the next species. Uplifted animals.
Oh my
Roar.
god. You picked the hardest one to go over.
Someone
right.
wanted it.
I mean they were smart to want this because like this one is it's such a beast because like obviously it's based on the uplifted bear. The art that goes with it is the uplifted bear, but it's literally designed so that you can build any type of animal you want as an uplifted bear, and there are an uplifted animal, and there are a couple things that we do in order to really like make this work. Specifically, you can basically just pick what you want in terms of your origins. You basically just pick a type of animal and you say this is the size I want. Like it says like you pick a progenitor animal.
Mm-hmm.
Just pick an animal. What do you want to be? Go for it. One of the things it does that makes this work is that in Starfinder you don't get like bonuses to like pretty much anything based on your size.
Right.
And we specifically say that no matter what you pick, whether you are a chinchilla or a Tyrannosaurus Rex, you have a reach of 5 feet.
Or a corgi.
Like, or a corgi. No matter what you pick, you have a reach of 5 feet. So by putting that very simple limit into place and like, okay, well, you get to pick the speeds that go with your animal type, and it's like, all right, cool, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's like if you want to be a gargantuan dinosaur and your GM says fine, go be it. Like I think the books specifically caps it at huge, but like a gargantuan creature with a reach of 5 feet is still like, yeah, you have a bigger area of coverage because your body is bigger, sure, but like the benefits you get from it aren't that big, and honestly you take more penalties for being that big in big dungeons anyway.
Yeah.
So have fun. But one of the things that's really neat about it is like your origins, you pick whether you're an anthropomorphic animal, meaning like you have a general humanoid body structure, you got 2 arms that are prehensile, you got 2 legs, or you could just be a feral animal if you want to. A feral animal only has 1 hand because in my headcanon you're using your mouth to carry things.
Right.
But you could flavor that however you want, but you have a fewer hand, but you get a bonus talent. Specifically, you get bestial blendin, which means that you have an easier time to disguising yourself as an ordinary animal of your kind, because
that's fair.
You are an ordinary animal of your kind.
Exactly.
And then the heritages for this one.
Oh man, those are the best.
They're some of my favorite in this book.
Almond in chat and I both agree that Tsukogami is really cool. Like being able to play like a Nekotama or a Tanuki or whatever as a Tsukogami. I've always wanted to do that. That's awesome.
It's basically head yokai, but like as just a thing. Like you're playing a creature that you've lived so long that you basically a kami has made you into a sapient creature. It's pretty neat. But like you can also have like a more traditional awakened option, like a druid awoken you. There's also a lot of like references to different media here. Like a good example is one of them is is it Technological Puppet?
Yes, Technological Puppet.
Yeah, so that one is you owe your sapience to like advanced technology that binds your soul, binds another creature's soul to your body, either a corpse or an effigy. Like, hey, you are actually just an animal. You're a taxidermy, and your soul cybernetically kept in your body like an android.
Well, it's better than being a necromantic puppet.
Cyber Rot is basically Rocket Raccoon from Guardians of the Galaxy, the movie. Like, you are an ordinary animal that someone ripped apart cybernetically and rebuilt, but you didn't die. Enjoy.
Right.
If you like Jujutsu Kaisen, Necromantic Puppet is basically Penda. A necromantic energy bonds a soul to your corpse. Enjoy. Lots of really fun. And then maybe you just got genetically modified. That's here too. My favorite one is Cursed because in this one you are a different species and cursed into an uplifted animal.
Okay. So that even work for like a werewolf or something.
You could totally do that. Yeah.
Okay.
It's also really great if you want to play I'm a Spider, so what?
Oh no. It really would.
The talents here, like the core idea is like, here's just a whole bunch of things that animals get in Starfinder. Build what you want and tell me why you have it. Like, there's not really a whole lot of rules. You could sit down forever and try to make a specific list of rules for different animals, but in a game like Starfinder, where like there are alien life forms on every planet, basically, you can just do what you want.
Yeah.
Like, have fun, go crazy. One of my favorite ones is combat instincts, because you have to choose whether you're a predator or prey, and there's a list of bonus feats based on whether you're predator or prey. I'm sorry, sometimes like I read the content and I know that it sounds very hubristic and I apologize, but like I reread the stuff I wrote and I just re-impress myself.
That's fine.
Like, I did really good here. That's good. If you want to be a kangaroo or a rat or whatever and have a pouch, you can do that. I love them. I could go forever about uplifted animal. It's really fun.
Well, we should probably move on though to Yasoki.
Core species. Finally, something typical. So
from
Yasoki,
uplifted animal to Yasoki, if you want to play an uplifted rat.
Listen, so actually, I'm going to rewind to Uplifted Animal. Okay. Uplifted Animal has an entire sidebar that talks about how you can tell the difference between something that evolved to be in that shape, like a Kitsune or a Yasoki, and like an Uplifted Animal. Okay. There's an entire sidebar dedicated to that.
Gotcha.
I think that's a very important and fun distinction.
Yes.
Now, anyway, going back to Yasoki, this is a really good species to talk about, like, how a species can change going from the core rules into this book. So like, as a baseline, you get 2 hit points, just like in the core book. You have a land speed of 30 feet, same as the core book. Respiration and senses are pretty much the same. The one major change is that if you're a Yasoki, you only get low light vision by default for free. If you want dark vision, you have to take it as a talent. And so in a lot of cases, like, we had to look, we looked at our balancing guide, which basically said every species is allowed to have one and a half feats worth of powers as baseline abilities that they all get, and then they get 1 heritage, which is a feat in power, and then they get 2 talents, each of which is 1 feat in power. So in the end, you have about 3.5 feats worth of power from your species at level 1, and it was very important to me that we kind of try to keep as much of that rating as possible. So for Yasokis, you get the cheek pouches for free, and you also get a Yasoki lineage. You're either anthropomorphic or you're Aetherian. In that case, you look much more like a rat. And so for me, the Starfinder art has had this thing where some of the Yasoki look really anthropomorphic. They look like little people with big rat heads. And then some of the art looks like an actual rat person. And so I'm like, all right, well, instead of saying like, hey, the art is wonky and all over the place, this book is like, those are actually 2 different options. Pick which lineage you want. Nice. Which one of these types of rat folk do you want to be? And they each have a bonus talent that you get. So it's fun. It's good stuff. I like the names for a lot of these, like there's Sneak Scamp and Pitter Scamper. The names are great. The Yasoki were done by Taniki Bauman. I always say her name wrong, and I'm so sorry if you're listening, because I play a game with you and I have no excuse. But her name game is awesome. I'd say that like learning how to name stuff is one of the hardest skills to develop as a freelancer, and she has very strong names, very good. Some of the things that were really, really, really evocative. She has a talent called Loose Skin, which is where you can get out of being grappled and restraint easier because your skin is baggy and loose, and you just kind of like jiggle your body around until you're out of it. It's really funny.
I like Cornered Rat.
Yeah, Cornered Rat is good. Moxie is like one of the core Yasoki abilities in Starfinder. If you want that, you have to take it as a Yasoki talent. It's here. You don't get it for free. You gotta pick it. There's also a lot of abilities that work with the cheek pouches if you want to put stuff in your mouth faster. Spitfire is one of my favorite. You can transfer ammunition or battery from your cheek to your hand as part of the action to reload an item. So you literally go, I need to reload this laser rifle. You spit it right into your gun, just for you. Good
Yes.
stuff.
I love how the bomb cheek heritage kind of shouts out to the old idea of putting grenades in your cheek pouches
You go,
and gives you the
totally.
Spitfire feat. Yeah, talent.
Yeah, it's the best thing to do. Definitely very strong on is strong in terms of like flavor. Like I don't think that's be taking a free battery out of your mouth and putting it in your gun is really all that mechanically overwhelming.
Nah, it's
but
fine.
It's really fun. One thing that you'll see is that a lot of species share like core ideas when it makes sense in multiple places. One of the places that I think 2 or 3 species have is Yasoki have a version of it called Rodent Gate, where they can drop to all fours and just like scamper. At like super fast speeds. You need to have the Therian lineage in order to take it, but it's just like this idea of just seeing this rat person drop to all fours and just running, and it's great. Good stuff.
I love it. I love it. And the last of the featured species that people have called out wanting to hear about is the Berni. I hope I said that right.
That doesn't surprise me. They're very popular. They were also done by Teneke.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the Berni are fun because there are actually a lot of different types of otters in the real world, and we don't really talk enough about those. So you get to pick between being a Arctic otter or a river-dwelling otter or a ocean, like a oceanic otter, depending on where you live. They're called ice flitter, river dweller, or seaborn. And then the heritages are just kind of fun. They're about being like otters. Like one of them is you could literally I like to think that like it's heritage and then species name when you're talking about it. So like I am a Sokpal Kitsune. So like one of the options for Berni is literally you're just a cute Berni. Enjoy. You're cute.
Yep.
There's a lot of really cool options for them. One of them is called Berni Positivity, where you gain bonuses against emotion effects, and you can spend resolve points in order to shake off negative emotions faster, which is fun. Obviously, their favorite object is here. It's not required. You don't have to take it.
I love favorite object, though.
Yeah.
And you could take it with spell holder, and your favorite object could be a spell gem.
Totally. And then you'll be really sad when you cast a spell and the spell gem evaporates.
Well, it's okay. It's like, tell your GM in advance, I don't know what the spell gem is. You get to choose. And my character doesn't know.
I like, one of them is called Play Ball. Really fun. They get sleek fur. Slide is funny.
Slide is
that
great.
That one is basically you drop to your belly and just slide along the ground, but it has to be like wet or moist or covered in like ice or snow or something.
Right.
But it's funny. Just the names of them is really good. Like,
I mean, you have Cannonball with 3 exclamation points.
You do. You can cannonball into the water as an action. It's really great. Berni are definitely a option that their talents are strongest when you're in a water themed campaign.
Right.
And that makes sense. And if you're not in that situation and you don't want to have a lot of those abilities, there are some that are a little bit more like open, like Rough and Tumble Combatant lets you give your unarmed strikes either the grapple or trip quality, which is very helpful. Or you could just take a universal option.
Right.
Or like, take Deaxiomorphic and you can be a Berni Yasoki.
Or take Warning Squeak.
Definitely. So is that all the feature species that people wanted to see?
I think so. Unless you saw another one. This was on a bunch of different servers. So
oh, that's fair. Let's go with the next one then.
All right. Additional species then. The Verthani. I hope I'm saying that right. Verthani.
Verthani. They are they're not core in the core rulebook, but they're like a packed world species in Starfinder. That's the name of the game this is.
Yes, Starfinder.
Definitely. I see a lot of the people are now officially seeing the Wizard Berni. And they're getting to see his hat.
Yes.
Everybody loves his hat. He's the best.
Yes.
So Verthani, they get like the skin mimic trait is for free at first level, where they can just kind of like either hide themselves, and for your heritage you pick whether you're augmented, a god vessel, or unaugmented, which is part of their like core flavor. and their talents are fun. They get a lot of stuff that plays with augmentation rules.
Yeah.
They have, and also like the fact that they live in along the habitable zone of a tidally locked world. So like you get a lot of stuff that goes off of those two core theme ideas.
Yeah, I saw the ability to get extra systems for you to implant your cybernetic augmentations into. Has that been
Yeah.
done before?
In an official product?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Oh, that's cool. I thought that was really neat. That's really cool. Yeah.
Just slap some more augmentations in there. They can take it.
They can take it.
They've been taking it for a long time.
Yeah, well, another species that could definitely do that would be the... Do I got them? Oh, no, I got them mixed up. It would be the Barathu, which was another one people want to hear about.
Yeah, they're also very augmented. They're like jellyfish peoples. They have an ability called Simple Adaptation for free at first level, where they can just change their chemistry and get an ability from a list, and all of the abilities are balanced to be about a feat in power. So it's a very good ability because you can just cycle through a couple different feat in power abilities. They are limited. Every swift action you get it to the next one. So basically, if you're constantly keeping up these adaptations, you're probably not going to be able to full attack, but it's fair enough. It's fine.
Yeah.
They have a lot of stuff that plays off of what types of options they can get with that ability. So there are like 2 or 3 different ability that like there's one that's called Lasting Adaptation, where they can increase the amount of time that they permanently get one of the adaptations from that list. They just always have it. And then there's like Exoskeletal Growth, where you can gain either a burrow's speed or damage reduction overcome by 2 types of kinetic damage of your choice, or natural weapons by growing a skeleton as a jellyfish, which is horrifying.
And if you get drill limbs to get that burrow speed, you could be a dentist.
Oh no. Why would you say that? You monster.
You don't want a giant squid person jellyfish dentist with drill limbs? No. All right. Before we lose too many people off that idea, let's check out the Nagaji.
Okay. Isn't it Nagaji?
Nagaji. Yes, Nagaji. Yeah, you're right. You are totally right.
I did it. I corrected Dustin on his own show. So yeah, they are from Pathfinder First Edition. They are basically humanoids that were created by Naga in order to be like... The First Edition uses servitors. We try to move away from that, but also it's really general to create people who have hands that'll help you. Right. Because you're a snake and don't have hands, and you don't want to lift things up with your mouth.
Yeah.
So the big thing that they get is that they get basically a bonus talent from either being bipedal or by having a giant snake as their lower half.
I love that. The Nalasi lineage to let you be like a snake bottom is really cool.
Yep. I like it too. Part of me almost wanted to change it to be the new Leminian heritage, because that's basically what a Leminian is. But I feel like just having this be a core Nagaji thing is fine. There you go.
Right. I completely agree with that. And I think that's really cool. And there's a lot of species called Naga that aren't like the big challenge rating Naga in the Paizo world that players would like to play as. And this lets them play that fantasy out. We're going to switch over now to the Venara for another formerly Pathfinder First Edition PFS Season 5 species.
So this is one that I wanted because I like them, and they were in Starfarer's Companion. At the time, I wrote them before the Marikoy. I knew the Marikoy existed and had like rules and would be playable. So I wanted them, and also the Marikoy like have normal people feet, which is fine, but like you just want like a good old fashioned monkey guy who doesn't have bug eyes.
Exactly.
So if that's you want the Venara. One of the things they have that I think is hilarious, they have a prehensile feet racial trait.
Oh no!
where you can literally say you basically can give yourself the multi-armed universal creature rule up to multi-armed 2, but every extra arm you give yourself using that universal creature rule lowers your speed, because you're basically hopping around on 1 foot or like lying on the ground with both of your feet holding the guns or whatever. Like you can do it, it's fine, but it's a little weird, and I like it. It makes them feel distinct from the Marikoy, which is very important to me.
Right.
They also have lots of abilities based on like hanging around in trees, and like they also have a very similar, like you can knuckle walk and move faster by dropping your hands. They also have size shifting, like actual Venara in Indian mythology, where they can just make themselves smaller or bigger. take it more times, get bigger or smaller. You want to be a mouse-sized Vinar? Go for it. I don't care.
Awesome.
I won't judge you.
I want a mouse-sized monkey now.
I mean,
not as a
maybe
pet,
you're
as like a
careful.
friend.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So Raxolite was another one people wanted to see.
Nice. So Raxolite, they're like Pikmin, essentially. They're little like flower guys. And so they have an ability where they're an angiospermic species, and they can switch between being like a seedling plant and a flowering plant, which has very interesting connotations because the lore in Pathfinder is very clear that that is like them literally reproducing. So it's interesting, but you can do it. Enjoy. You can either gain a bonus to diplomacy checks or the glide universal creature rule because you got like a little seed pod and you go on your like your cotton cloud. And they also have a thing where like they basically have one medium-sized hand. That's essentially how it works.
Okay.
They have one medium-sized hand for using things, and everything else is tiny. And
Okay.
it's a very strange description, but hey, it's fun. I like them. They're very cool. They get a lot of abilities based on how they can use that Lefan ability. Like one of them is you get a vine whip, so go Bulbasaur.
Yeah. Awesome. And then we have people who wanted to hear about some of these heritages. Now, the universal heritages, they replace your base heritage, I assume?
So yeah, you can pick one instead of one of your species heritages. So like, let's say you are a Kitsune and you don't like any of the heritages that we have written for you. You can take a universal one instead. There are ways to get multiple because, like I said, in this system, the power of a heritage is that it's always worth about a feat power. So like, if you want to spend a talent to gain a heritage, it's really not a big deal in this system.
Gotcha. So the first one people want to know about was the Tiefling.
Oh my gosh, that doesn't surprise me. People love tieflings.
Yeah.
So basically how it works is that in the core of the book, you gain a tiefling lineage, and for tieflings and Azamars, the lineage doesn't really do anything. It just tells you how another talent works. But you're still making that choice to be like, I'm demonic, I'm infernal. I want to do a product down the line where I add like Daemon as well, and maybe a couple other ones, and then maybe give some more talents that are specific to those. But like, as you can see, the heritages are one page. We didn't have a lot of space, and that's okay. The talents you do get tend to be things that can work with pretty much anyone. So like, one of the ideas is like in Pathfinder First Edition, when you had tieflings that were built off of specific types of outsiders, it's like, oh man, if I'm going to do this, then I need to make sure I have a different skill bonus for each one. But I can just take all those skills and I can just put them all in one talent as tiefling skill expertise, and you can pick whatever you want. I don't care. Go for it. You want to be a devil who's super sneaky? Cool. You want to be a demon who's like really good at talking to people? Awesome. I don't care. Do whatever.
And of course, just because you're taking the heritage doesn't mean you lose access to any of your original species talents or the universal talents. So
nope, you actually just add the tiefling talents to the list you could pick.
Exactly. Yeah, that's where my mind, when I was thinking of whether to get a heritage or not on my character, I was looking through and I'm like, I only get these 2 or 3 talents, and then I'm like, wait, no, I still have all my species talents. No, I still have all the universal talents. Wow. All right.
Yeah. just it's more like it's increasing the number of stands at the buffet that you're willing to stand in, really.
Exactly. Then we want people to check out the Chillborn and therefore Heatborn. So I'll move to the Chillborn first so we can see that adorable Berni.
Yeah, so you really can't talk about Chillborn without talking about Heatborn, because pretty much they're exactly the same, just one is for cold and one is for hot. I tried to write one heritage for both of them, and it didn't work because there wasn't a good word for it, like biome born, and then
temperature. Yeah.
No. Yeah. So it was better to have them both, and then that way you could say like, all right, well, this is Chillborn, this is Heatborn. And it's the basic idea is that the first ability is like you choose how adapted you are to the cold. You can pick 1, 2, or 3, and whatever you pick is the number of steps warmer you treat it when you're in a cold environment.
Oh,
so
okay.
Yeah, but then in converse, if you're in a hotter environment, you treat it that many steps hotter. So like you will get. Like basically in cold you're better acclimated and you don't treat it being as cold as it is, you treat it as being hotter, And then if you're doing Heatborn, you treat it as being colder than it actually is.
Okay,
Does
I
that make
get it.
sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot
Yeah.
of sense.
Yeah. And so one of the things is that I talk a lot about how the heritages have suggestions, but not really requirements. I really don't recommend having Chillborn and Heatborn on the same character because those heritages will literally just cancel each other out. There's no reason to do it. Just don't do that. But some of the fun things you can do, you can get resistances to either cold or fire on both of them. The Chillborn have a talent where they are better at like making their way through the cold areas, and they can walk across snow and ice. Whereas Heatborn is better at like not becoming dehydrated in the middle of a frozen wasteland.
That makes sense.
Burning wasteland. So it's helpful. A lot of species get one or the other as like a talent option. Where like, you know, a good example is the Vlaka. They're canonically from a frozen world, so they just have a talent where it's like, yeah, I'm adapted to the cold because I'm from this frozen world. I get Chillborn for free as a talent. I think the Morlamar get Blubber as a species trait, so Morlamar just get 2 heritages and one of them is always Chillborn.
Okay, cool. I was just showing people the illustrations for the Morlamar and the Vrlaka. And let's go ahead and check out Blood Scarred.
I like this one.
This it's so good. Reminds me of the old dual class archetype for Sorcerer and Blood Rager.
Yeah. So one of the big ideas in this book is like when I did everything, I tried to pick editors who were really culturally sensitive and could like really challenge some of the stuff that all of the authors were writing to try to make it as good as possible. And the original Blood Scarred that got published got feedback from several different editors that was like, this is kind of looks like you're gamifying disability. And I was like, oh no, I don't want to do that. That's how can I take these drawbacks and make it very clear that these aren't disabilities? Oh, I know. Let's make it so that anytime you roll a natural 1 on a saving throw, you have a chance to just spawn demons out of your body that try to kill everybody. That's not a disability.
No, that is
that's so basically how Blood Scarred works is that Blood Scarred you get 2 bonus talents where a normal heritage only gives you 1, and they can be universal talents or from any species or universal heritage. You don't even have to like meet the requirements. You just pick whatever you want for those 2. The idea is that your body is changed by blood space. So like if you are a cat folk and you want to have a dragon talent and you have like 1 dragon arm and you have a universal talent flex, you have like these big swollen muscles, like you can decide what blood space did to you and those talents kind of reflect it. But you also take a -4 penalty to saving throws against Blood Scourge Corruption, which is introduced in the Advanced Occult Guide, and you also pick a Blood Scarred drawback. One of the options is called Blood Scarred Gateway, which is anytime you roll a natural 1 on a saving throw, or you get critically hit by a creature, or a creature rolls a natural 20 on a skill check against you, demons burst out of your body into adjacent space. Enjoy.
Oh no.
Yeah. Another one that I really like is Blood Scarred Lifespan. It reduces the amount of years it takes for you to age from each age category. You take a -4 penalty to saving throws against aging effects and have vulnerability against effects that damage you via aging, such as a Ghost Corrupted Touch.
Yikes.
So, like, that one I think is, in my opinion, is the most mild. So if you're looking for one that has major story implications but is not like going to come up that often, then that's a good one. But let me tell you, if one of my players took that, you could bet your butt that I would start taking abilities that would work on. And now that the precog is released, personally, I would say Death's Door qualifies for that.
Oh yeah.
So if you fight a precog and they cast Death's Door on you, you are vulnerable. You're taking 50% more damage from that really high damaging spell. And then the last option is the one that Zolver has in Teenage Wasteland. This is the campaign that I playtested these rules in. And it was a good way to confirm that giving an extra talent was not going to break this character, except just make him really fast, which is what he was built to do. So what it is you take a -2 penalty to saving throws against things like death effects, energy drain, things that would kill you. And then you also don't gain hit points from your species at first level.
Oh no.
Yeah, so you're like, oh, sorry. Enjoy.
Yeah, that's no good at all. I mean, it's great because for doing all this, you do get 2 bonus talents with your heritage.
Yep. But you get lots of penalties. I can't wait to throw blood space at you and just watch you get mutated. Enjoy.
Oh no. All right. Before you get any more ideas like that, let's move over to Limian.
Limian. All right. So
Leminian?
when I Leminian. So
Leminian.
Leminian is essentially a heritage that if you want to play a centaur, this is the heritage for you.
Hmm.
I wanted to do things like centaurs, but like I don't know. I feel like the centaurs have never really felt like monstrous humanoids to me,
Mm-hmm.
but they've never really felt like something that was really their own species.
Right.
They're half of two other species, which I guess is, but I like Leminian because in like in pop culture and in people's like what people want to play, like the idea of having my top half is this and my bottom half is this is like a
Mm-hmm.
very pervasive idea.
Mm-hmm.
And so making a lineage that was just that was like really really important to me. So what you can do is you can basically take this and there's a whole but it basically interfaces with the uplifted animal rules where you pick a whole bunch of uplifted animal stuff and you can pick uplifted animal talents. And so how it works is that you can either get a uplifted animal talent at first level from this, meaning like you probably picked your own thing, like my top half is a human and my bottom half is a bear. Cool. I don't know what that would be, but cool. And or if you want to be like a specific type of mythological leminian,
Mm.
like a centaur or a lamia or a sphinx, you can pick a lineage instead of a feat, and it gives you very specific things you can do. I don't want to call out all of these, but the one I do want to call out is the lamia one because it implies that you're cursed, and you gain the ability to curse other people with this heritage, which is funny.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's funny. I very much think it's funny. Are you still there, Dustin?
Yeah, I'm still here. Sorry about that. Something just
Oh,
fell off my shelf and broke.
oh, that's not good.
it was fine. It's just a coffee pot. Um. All right. So, um, where was I? Where was I? Right. Limian. I love it. I love it. I love it. You could play the bottom half of a horse and the top half of a horse of a
I
Nuar.
mean,
There we go.
yeah, I mean, you could do that. You could also do a top half of a Nuar, bottom half of a horse. The art is top half of a Valaka, bottom half of like a direwolf,
Yeah,
which I
that
think
that
would
art
really
is
cool.
so cool. I love that so
Yeah,
much.
I thought that would be really popular. I almost did top half of a kitsune, bottom half of a fox, but like I was like, no, foxes are tiny. You could have a giant fox and do it, but I was like, I want to do something that looks like that is using two actual creatures that isn't like typical. So I thought that doing direwolf Valaka would be pretty cool. And
Mm.
I tried really hard for the heritages to like really mix up which of the featured species were used for each of them.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
that's a
we're
good one.
gonna transition from liminal onto Chimera Born.
Oh, that one was requested during this
It
very channel.
was.
So Chimera Born was originally a universal archetype for second edition or first edition, where it was an archetype where you basically just got abilities and turned yourself into a chimera that could shapeshift into what you normally look like.
Mm.
And then it turned into a mutation in the advanced occult guide with options for like playing it as a species, but like that never felt right to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then now we're here with Chimera Born, and the Chimera Born is now a heritage you can take. And this, I think, this is the best version of the Chimera Born personally in terms
Mm-hmm.
of its flavor. You basically become one size larger in your normal form, and you pick and two different types of creatures to serve as your other heads.
Mm-hmm.
Your head in the center is always the same as your species, but then you have one on each side. And so in the art, there's a rank rhoda, and I think that's a dragon, an outer dragon of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that's basically the gist of the rules. You get multi-typed for those creatures, and you can learn uplifted animal talents or dragonkin talents depending on what your heads are that match those. And then there are a couple talents that you get that you can choose from here.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the options is that if you don't want to be a shapeshifting chimera born, you don't have to be. But if you do want to be a shapeshifting chimera born, you can take it as an option.
Awesome. Oh, and Stephanie Axberg is in chat asking, can you just be a horse? A horse in space that's a person. Yes, you can. That
Yeah.
would be an uplifted animal with the
Yep.
feral lineage.
Yep, you could just be a horse.
A horse in space that's also a person.
Yes. I mean, if you want to be BoJack Horseman, that's anthropomorphic. But if you
Right.
just want to be a horse, then that is just feral. At that point, you're the horse from Centaur World.
Well, you could have both in the same party, and things would get kind of awkward.
It could. Very, very much so. It'd be very awkward.
I love it. And we also had a request for the protomorph.
Oh my gosh, I know people are gonna like that. Protomorph is basically that time I got reincarnated as a slime.
Ah, I love it. The Goo Claw approves.
Yeah, show them the art.
It's there.
Yeah, so basically, you change your species into a slime, or you gain multi-type oozed and the change shape universal creature rule, and it changes what your true form is, and your alternate form is what your like would have been otherwise, like your normal species appearance, and you can become partially amorphous, and you can gain a pseudopod to hit people with.
Awesome. Very cool. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Did you have any other species heritages or additional species that you wanted to bring up?
That I wanted to. I will give you one from each category.
Sure.
How does that sound?
That sounds
Okay.
great.
Let's start with universal heritages because that's where we are.
Okay.
I want to talk about. This is hard because I like so many of them.
I know.
But the one that I want to talk about is the ectoplasmite. This one was powered by our Kickstarter. It was a stretch goal. The ectoplasmite is if you want to play Danny Phantom. Enjoy.
Okay, that's what that art is. Okay.
You are infused with ectoplasm, and using that ectoplasm, you can become partially incorporeal like a ghost.
Awesome.
Enjoy. That is literally what it is. I asked Jacob to give me an art of a human boy who looked like a Dante Phantom style character, but wasn't a Dante Phantom style character, and that is the inspiration. You are an ectoplasmite.
I love it.
All right, so then I'm going to go for the additional species. The one I want to talk about is... Ooh, this one is hard. I like the Izogun. We'll do Izogun. Mostly because the Izogun have a special ability called posture, where they can change whether they are basically like a centaur with like legs on their hands on the ground like that and a gait, or they can stand straight up and look like that one teacher in My Hero Academia. Yeah, and so like a lot of their traits go around playing with their posture. So like one of them is when you change postures, you can choose an action from a specific list based on the one you're taking and use that action as part of it. So like the idea is like I'm going to stand up, so now I'm putting my hand in my pocket and pulling out an item. I'm going to hit people with it. It's going to be great. There's one that I really like is whenever you attempt a reflex saving throw, roll an initiative check or move half your speed, you can use the posture species trait as a reaction. And just like, oh, I'm dodging and now I'm standing up. That one's cool. And then there's a talent for each posture that gives you a special ability. So like multi-armed is when you're standing, you can use your lower arms as hands. And then there's another one where like when you're on all fours, you can go faster.
Okay.
So that would be Izogun. And then featured species. Let me think. What would be the one that people would want to hear about most? Because I know everybody expects me to just talk about Kitsune. So, and I mean, honestly, I could. But let's talk about the Stellifera instead.
Stellifera.
They are cuttlefish.
Yes.
They are psychic cuttlefish that make water bodies for themselves. You can see so in that core picture, basically the entire powered armor is a fish tank. And he manipulates the water inside the suit to
that's cool. Okay.
If you want to see just a picture of him as a blob of water, that's page 168.
There it is.
There's different fish though. So there are just some really fun abilities that play with that Hydra body. The Hydra body, the Stellifera are interesting because they, as a species, are one of the species that were put in this book that were honestly overpowered in Starfinder, because essentially they had tons of ability penalties to their physical stats with bonuses to their mental stats, but then they made the Hydra body and all the penalties went away.
Oh, oops.
Yeah. So, oops, no penalties, and like an extra 6 ability scores. So, one of the things that this does is, since there are no ability score adjustments in this rule set, the Stellifera instead have a species trait called Frail, where they have vulnerability to kinetic damage. And unless they're in their Hydra body gets rid of their vulnerability. So, like, that doesn't count in their feat and a half because it's so easily turned off. But the idea is that, okay, if you are definitely don't want to be a Stellifera running around outside of your Hydra body, because you will just get smashed by anything that does physical damage to you.
Mm-hmm.
You will take so much damage. Someone will take a mace and will bot your poor little cuttlefish body with it. I like all the named of the different abilities for this one. Like one of them is cuttlefish.
Yes.
And there's a whole one of the ones that I think is going to be very. There are two talents in this book that I think are going to be very controversial.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is a talent that gives you the stellar attunement universal creature rule, which basically gives you limited Solarian powers. Drelix get that,
Huh.
and basically you gain the ability to attune to either proton or graviton, and the bonuses for doing that. And so Drelix can only attune to graviton, but they can attune to graviton and they can learn limited revelations from graviton for it.
Okay.
The one that Stellifera has that I think is going to be controversial is Aqueous Array, where they gain the nanite array of the nanosite, but they make theirs out of water, and that has a lot of
that's
drawbacks. Cool. Yeah, so like they can make a cloud like a nanosite with no adjustments, which is strong. Like that cloud is really good. They could also sheath themselves in more water, but they spend resolve points instead of nanite surges to gain hit points, which is like, okay, that's fine, that's fair. And then the last one is gear, and they can only make they can't make items that basically require to be made out of like heavy tech. So they can only make armor, analog weapons, and cryo weapons as major forms, and equipment that they make can't interface with batteries.
Okay.
Instead, they have to spend resolve points in order to power those items. And finally, they'll collapse into water like when they're done. Like so, you're literally just making it as water. And as a little bit of extra flavor, when they make stuff out using this array, using the gear array, it's made out of water or ice. So like if you make a big dashko, it's a dashko made out of ice.
Oh, that's sweet. I love that. Yeah. That's cool.
Yes, I think it's a very cool one. They very much play with hydrokinesis as their core. That hydrokinesis and like octopus abilities, cuttlefish, like actual real world what they do. So like you can shoot and get people. You can do psychic combat maneuvers. You can shape your hydra body into different spaces. You can be poisonous. They're very versatile, and I love their theme. It's very good.
Awesome.
All
well,
right. So,
before we finish, though, I do have a couple things I want to point out to people that I thought was really cool.
Sure.
I love that the humans get Pursuer.
Yes.
I love that so much, that just all humans could run really well, or have the capability of running better than others of their species, people of other species. I'm glad there's a call out to that there. That's really cool. I also love, of course, I love the Kitsune rules in here, and I feel I have to go to this page at some point during this stream just to get it out there.
That's fair.
Tons of different cool heritages. Obake, Hito Kitsune, Firefox Adept, Jewel Crafter. Lots of cool stuff you can get here for Kitsune. And then I do also want to thank you personally. Really, really thank you for letting me write... Where is it? Oh, it's not coming up here. Universal Heritages. There we go. I wanted to thank you very much for letting me write the Kamiwaka, as it's something I've wanted to write for a long, long time. It's effectively, well, a tiefling would be for a bunch of different fiends. This is kind of like a, I don't want to say half, because there's different ways to get it, but let's just call it half kami, or touched by kami, or influenced by kami, or you have a kami warding you, and yeah. And I'm really glad that I got to write that. Is this something I've always wanted to write? I didn't expect to write it for sci-fi, but that made it even cooler.
Yeah, you got a kami inside of you, and he's a happy little fox guy.
Yes.
Good stuff.
And same with Oniwaka being the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was fun.
I love the Reborn heritage. I'm always up for that. There's so much you could do with that as a character.
Yeah. That's a good one. That one's basically Duskwalker or Samsarin, and it's fun.
Yeah, I felt like both of those should have been heritages all along, and I'm glad to see them as such. So yeah, excellent. And yeah, I just want to show to everybody, in case somebody came onto the stream late and has no idea what we're talking about, this is Starfinder Species Reforged, which you can find on Drive-Thru RPG at the link that I've dropped about every 30 minutes or so. I'll put it in there again.
Oh man, I kept you for a while. We've been on this show for like an hour and a half now.
That's fine. I love it. We could talk about this for like probably 2 whole days and not get through everything. There is so much content in this book. It's a 347 pages over 50 different species.
61.
61 species. Yeah, you have the numbers for this better than I do.
I know, yeah.
Plus tons of universal heritages and universal talents. There is a practically limitless number of characters you could create using this book before you even look at your class.
And you can't even just go by the number of like talents, because so many of the talents can be picked multiple times.
Right, and have different options for them within the talents. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so there's lots of things you can do. It's very exciting. I've seen a lot of people like tell me that they feel that this has like completely changed and like revitalized Starfinder for them, which is very exciting to hear. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, I am of the opinion that Starfinder is great and didn't need to be revitalized. But if I can get more people to play what is unquestionably a great game, like I'll do it.
Yes.
Like challenge accepted, y'all.
Oh.
And this isn't even the end. Like we're doing a series of products for the next year called Starfinder Species Expanded, where we're doing small little products that we are going to be putting out more of the Starfinder species and a couple of custom ones too, as like additional content that'll use the rules in this book. You can actually see a sneak peek of what some of those will be on the additional species spread. It tells you some other product names that you can go to look, and none of those products are out yet because they're all coming out later this year. So but now you'll know what to look for, and you can start speculating if you're the type who wants to speculate. I already know what all of them will be, of course, and the first one that is going to come out, I'll tell you, is Starfinder Species Expanded Mammalian Species. That one is going to have 4 species in it. And people who followed the Kickstarter will probably be able to know what 2 of them are, because I've mentioned that they were on the list of ones that I wanted to put in this book but just didn't have space.
Oh.
Yeah. Some Everybody Games stuff in that one. Wink. You can figure it out now.
Oh.
Easy. There's 2.
Excellent. Oh, and yes, Ular, there are goblin dog creature companions in this book.
Yes. You could put. There are goblin dogs. I think there's dire wolves as a creature companion, and then there is
hyenas, kitsune star gems, kokugami, and I can't pronounce that. Hyenadun?
Yeah, it's basically a big supersized hyena.
Okay.
Like
yes.
It's like if you went to Burger King and asked to supersize me, but you supersized a hyena.
Are those for the gnolls?
Yeah, if you want to be a gnoll riding a giant hyena, you can do it in this book.
Yeah.
The gnolls are great, by the way. I love them in this book. They've got a lot of crazy abilities. Like one of them is you can either like wound your left hand to make poisoned, or wound your right hand to make healing serum.
That's like cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of just crazy stuff in that. I'm very excited for people to really crack open the book and let me know what they think and what they like. Yeah, no, you could absolutely be a goblin and ride your goblin dog, and they see you roll in, they hating.
All right.
It's actually a very good companion. It's got like base disease and stuff, like strong.
Awesome. All right. Well, just little announcements for everybody here. For those who don't know, you can check out my Discord at infinite.net. That will send you an invite right over there, where you can talk to third-party authors, to collaborate, to ask questions about their products, or just get updates on the show. In addition, we recently had the developer for Path Builder over there, and we are discussing what will need to be done in order to get Pathfinder Infinite and other third-party products onto Path Builder, which is very exciting. Also, it was pointed out that thanks to the efforts of our guest, Kitsune of Galarian now has a Foundry module.
It does. You can play all the content, and I think it's free. But you know what's not free? All of the amazing lore in that book.
Exactly.
So if you see the rules and you're like, these rules are awesome, and you're like, wow, I would love to give this author some support, you can do it. And then, you know, you could do it. I won't stop you. And then
You won't stop people from buying your book?
No, never. And then you'll still get like content out of it though.
Of course.
Because like it's not all in the app. Like pretty much just like the last maybe 10 pages out of like 40 are there.
Right.
And honestly, like, you know, my rules content, I like my game on rules content. I think it's good. Obviously, I'm very biased. But, and this is the big one, but you know, the real meat and potatoes and treasure in that book, I think what makes that book one of the highest selling books on Pathfinder Infinite right now is just how high quality the flavor is and the lore.
Oh, yeah. All the different heritages are fantastic.
Yes, 100%. So I recommend, you know, if you're curious and you want to see if the rules are something you would like, go check it out. I'm going to be real. I was very selfish. The reason that exists is because I'm playing a character that is using Kyuubi Scion in Dustin's home game, and I didn't want to have to figure out how to program it in Foundry. So I said, hey, make this free for everybody, please. And they're like, all right. Like, I'm like, yeah.
I love it.
Listen. Sometimes it's like, you know, just sometimes you do the good things for all the people, but then also you have ulterior motives.
Excellent.
My ulterior motives are I want a game with my
content. Excellent. All right, and I kind of want to give a little shout out here to the Jester archetype that was just released on Pathfinder Infinite. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I plan on doing a review of it later at another time. But I feel like I should shout out to it today simply because it is April Fool's Day, and while it was kind of released with that in mind, it is also at the same time a serious product if you want to play a Jester type character. There's a lot of neat stuff that people have been talking about with that product, and I just kind of wanted to shout out to it while it was the holiday.
OMG, I should have totally picked for my last one that I picked instead of the Stellifera. I should have just said a species that's not in the book. I should have said one of the ones that's in the mammalian book. Oh man, I can never get that back now.
Are evil clowns mammals?
No.
Okay.
Haven't you ever seen Killer Clowns from Outer Space?
Yeah, they're like plants, right? I can't quite remember.
No, they're like born out of cotton candy cocoons or something like that.
Yeah,
They might be silicon-based life forms, but the silicon is carbon because it's sugar. I don't know. I guess
silicon-based sugar.
I have no idea.
It's a sugar-free sugar substitute.
I don't know if you've seen that show, but like their technology is so advanced that it's basically magic. Like there's at one point where one of the clowns does like a puppet show for a dude, and like the puppet show like shrinks them and he feeds them to his popcorn. It's a weird movie. Wow. Now that I've said that sentence out loud, it's a weird movie.
Yeah. I've seen clips. I haven't seen the movie yet though.
Did you know that monster is actually in the Advanced Occult Guide?
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's like, hey, I made a shrink ray. I guess I'm going to make a killer clown to give it to. Enjoy.
Stephanie in chat is very happy that I asked if evil clowns are mammals and how quickly you were to say no. All right. Well, with that, I should probably go clean up my floor as there is glass all over the place from that broken coffee pot. So, thank you so much for joining us. This was fantastic. This was fun. Always love seeing more of your products and having you on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate being the first Starfinder product on the show and the first product that's not a Pathfinder Infinite product. I'm breaking all the boundaries. I think I was your first guest, too.
I think you... Yes, you were. Yes, you were.
I'm all the first.
All the first.
I'm used to it. My first and my last name start with A's. I'm always in first in line.
Yeah. I noticed that when I look at credits in books and I'll see your name and be like, oh, okay.
No matter how you arrange me, I still come on top.
Oh, no. And thank you for everyone in chat for joining us, especially our subscribers and everybody at our Discord at infinite.net. Next, I'll be back on Tuesday doing some on-air monster creation, and then you could catch me next Friday doing some more reviews from Pathfinder Infinite and Drive-Thru RPG and Starfinder Infinite and all those other great sources.
You should join his server and then demand that he make his monster using the Starfinder Alien Archive rules, just so that he can sweat because he'll have no idea how to do it.
Oh no, please don't. Because I know if somebody does, I will, but please don't.
I know you will. It'll be really funny. You look on the bright side. You'll get the excuse to build them using Kamigawa. Like you.
Oh yeah, there we go.
All right. Yeah, you do Kamigawa. You'll be fine. See?
Yeah,
Look
yeah.
how excited you are now.
Oh, and remember, there's infinite possibilities with infinite reviews.